Hi everyone, and welcome to a special edition episode of the ITSM crowd. We know that there's kind of difficult times and a lot of rapid change for a lot of businesses at the moment. And one thing that we're seeing is a lot of training is moving very quickly from the classroom into online delivery formats and remote learning. So what we thought we'd do is just quickly pull together our team of e-learning experts and just share some tips from different perspectives with you. So if you are making the switch from classroom to online, here are kind of some best practices that you might want to think about as part of that. So on this panel today, we've actually got more than 35 years of e-learning experience. And our guests are going to be sharing things from their different perspectives as well. So I've got a few things to say first from a general e-learning and a tutoring perspective. And then we're going to talk to Kirsty, we're going to talk to Dave, and we're going to talk to Kat as well, because they've all got different roles within ITSM Zone. So as you can see on screen, I'm Claire Agata. I've been with ITSM Zone and producing e-learning for 12 years now. And as part of that, I've done quite a lot of development in how we create our courses, but also answered a lot of tutor support questions as well, and helped people kind of schedule how they study. So these are my kind of little tips about general e-learning and how to do e-learning successfully. So the first thing that I would recommend for anybody is, if you're making the switch to e-learning or online training, make sure you've got a realistic study plan. A training course that might be 3 days in the classroom isn't necessarily a good experience if you lock yourself away in a room and try and do 3 days worth of e-learning. That can be a little bit intense. So look at how long you've got to study, look at any deadlines that you might have, perhaps for taking an exam, and then break your study down and create a study plan. And it's even worth thinking about printing something out and having that up in the area that you're studying, so that you can actually tick things off as you go and you can see that sense of progress. Another tip is just taking your time and actually trying out what you're learning. So with e-learning, you do have this advantage that you're not forced to study, all in one go. You're not in a classroom for 8 hours. So if there's something that you see and you think, actually, this is applicable to my role, you can pause your training and start to think about, well, how might I actually apply this if I'm talking to colleagues? What do they think about this? So make sure you actually apply what you're learning as you go, because that is one of the real benefits of e-learning. The other thing is to create yourself a support group. So it can feel a little bit isolating sometimes if you're studying all on your own. So think about, who can I interact with as part of my training? And that could be anything from a LinkedIn group, it could be colleagues, even friends and family, if what you study might be applicable there. For example, our Kanban course talks about using Kanban for household chores and exam revision. So forcing yourself to think about how to apply these things and maybe explain them to somebody else, that can be a real benefit, and it can help combat that feeling of isolation that you can sometimes get. Study little and often. So rather than leaving things, maybe you've got a deadline approaching, think about, I'm going to do an hour today, I'm going to do 2 hours tomorrow, and be aware as well that, you can flex your study plans. So if you leave everything to the last minute, the pressure's really on. But if you're following your little timetable and you're studying little and often, you do have that option to be flexible. And if things change, if there's a major incident at work, for example, you can adjust your study plans around that. And then finally, complement your training with online research. So there is a whole world of content out there now, blogs from people that are applying things, forums, discussion groups. So if there's something there in your training that's covered and you think, I'd really love to learn more about this, start doing some research and build on that knowledge that you're gaining from your training course. It's something that we've adopted at ITSM Zone, putting links to kind of real world examples actually into the training, but it's just encouraging people to read around the subject as well, and hopefully that brings it to life a little bit more. So those are my general tips for e-learning. The next thing I'm going to do is ask my colleague Kirsty to talk about e-learning from a more corporate perspective. So Kirsty works with a lot of our larger clients at ITSM Zone, and she's going to share some advice based on her role. So Kirsty, over to you, please.
Thanks, Claire. I'm Kirsty Unila, the Operations Manager with ITSM Zone. I've been working with the company for 8 years now, and one of the biggest parts of my role is to work with larger teams or organisations who have got large-scale training and wanting to get a lot of people through certification. So I think we're accepting that most people are moving into home working environments or not using the office maybe as much as they should. So as Claire said, we know that online training is a really good tool to use and one that offers the same outcomes as attending a classroom training. For companies and organisations, it keeps that return on investment. We know that trained staff perform better. They will often remain in post longer, bringing more value to a company. Their experience, their knowledge of your organisation gives them the capability to mentor newer members of the team, to coach people into their kind of learning journeys and what that means for organisational policy and procedure as well. So in terms of actual practical advice for doing the training, the materials that we give, the course that's provided is the same for everybody. So it doesn't matter whether you're a worldwide organisation where you're training people in America, UK, Europe, wherever, everybody has access to the same course. So it means that they all have the same starting point for discussion. They're all learning the same terms. They're all learning the same values. They're all learning, from the same sheets. They're all singing from the same page. So you could think about coordinating some online hangouts, some virtual chats between students so that they can swap ideas, discuss what they're taking from the learning. And they can bring it into company context. They can talk about what they would do, how they would apply the principles that they've just learnt. And these could be led as well by a more senior member of staff. It could be a manager who's drafted in to kind of discuss how you want it interpreted. And students also have access to our tutor support teams. Again, this is wherever they are, but perhaps think about if you have asked a question of your tutors, can you share it with other people within your organisation? Can you say, I was wondering about this, I thought some of you might be as well, and share the advice that you're given. And again, as mentioned, we need to think about how you're training. It's not a full day sprint, it's a marathon. Take your time, but set your study times. If you're coordinating a group, perhaps think about giving them, sort of 15, 20 minutes throughout the day here and there just to pick up a short lesson and get it completed. Or think about, one afternoon a week, you've got half your team out, another afternoon a week, you've got the other half of your team that are away and working on this. One of the tools that we can give you is that managers can have full visibility of what their students, what their team are working on. They can monitor activity of the online training. So managers, check on this, make sure that your teams are doing the training when they're supposed to be doing it. Don't leave it for a mad dash at the end where people are, kind of trying to cram everything in and just get it finished. give them the time to research, to look into what they're doing, and to expand on the learning wherever they need it. So that's a tool that we give you, and we would say go ahead and use that. But ultimately, kind of have a plan, set it out, allow people the time to do the learning, and managers monitor and give anything that's additional that they can.
Thank you very much, Kirsty. So next I'm going to introduce Kat Turner, who's our Education Portfolio Manager. So Kat's got a strong background in education and academia, and Kat's going to share some best practice tips for actually developing e-learning that is high impact and really delivers results. So over to you, Kat.
Thanks, Claire. I'm going to talk about best practice in e-learning creation. The way we are learning is changing very quickly, and the way we want to consume and access learning is changing. Professionals want us to access learning that fits in with their lifestyles, and this means getting fast, uncomplicated access to learning on demand on any device. They want to access learning that contains content that's searchable through the course and additional materials and addresses specific needs. So, for example, lots of our courses give you the opportunity to click to find out more about a topic or an exercise built around extended research. Professionals want learning that's matched to their career progression. You need to see what they're working towards, whether that be certification or upskilling in a specific area. For example, ITIL, DevOps, BRM, Agile, Cloud, and so on. E-learning creation needs to respond to this by providing a predictive learning experience with value for businesses, meeting the needs of the learner and business expectations. Mobile learning is a must for high engagement on any device. The Brandon Hall Research Group has actually stated that mobile learning now features among the top 3 business development priorities for companies and ranks only behind the need for seamless business alignment and improved data mining. Mobile learning is the top trend 2020 according to the e-learning industry and will continue to be so. This relates to on-demand training, flexible lifestyles, and the creation of high-impact and immersive techniques. So the way we are using e-learning now and the way we're creating e-learning has had a big impact. Being able to learn in small chunks and experiencing learning through a story-type framework are all equally important. And this leads me to talk about high-impact learning techniques, such as making learning short and interactive. According to the Journal of Applied Psychology, learning in bite-sized pieces makes the transfer of learning from the trainer to the student 17% more efficient. Short, focused learning encourages interaction and it should be action-orientated. How short should it be? Well, we find our best practice is to deliver 10 minutes as the maximum for lesson delivery, and this enables learners to study in bite-sized chunks and aligns with the best practice of micro-learning, which can be used to deliver just-in-time training and achieve specific outcomes quickly. So short lessons should be combined with clear goals that must be reached by the end of the session, and that goal must match or relate to the learning outcomes as best practice. So, for example, one of our courses, Agile Scrum course, has an outcome that might be to explain why Agile methodologies are important and how they add value. This would be practiced with an exercise and then tested with a quiz. The focus should be on what needs to be learned rather than what you want to teach and work from that. So with e-learning, the best practice is to aim to preempt the students' questions and be predictive. So as I won't see them face to face, when I'm writing, I usually think, does this make sense? Have I explained it enough? Have I addressed the content from different perspectives to provide the best learning experience? Learning aids are important as well, and they should be included, such as reinforcements to back up learning. This might take the form of a quiz based on the learning outcomes. Quizzes can be used to test a student's knowledge using multiple choice options. Once the quiz is complete, a student can see whether the answer is correct and have a recap of their learning. Lots of our courses have a consolidated quiz at the end so that you can reinforce your learning and recap before your exam. In-course and web links are very useful to reinforce learning. Our Cloud Computing Foundation contains lots of links to further study or information to encourage independent learning and engagement with the subject matter. For example, in relation to emerging trends in the cloud industry or security and identity and so on. Exercises can be used to reinforce learning too by having the solution provided immediately so that you can see what you've achieved. So for example, using cloud again, if you're working on the risks, benefits and differences between software as a service, platform as a service or infrastructure as a service, it can help to see whether you're on the right track before you move on. Performance support tools are really good learning aids as well, and they should be used to back up the learning. So they might include reference materials, study guides, case studies, and it helps for those to be in the same place as the learning so that they can be accessed easily. Our courses do this to support your learning experience. We have both advanced and foundation level courses. An example of an advanced is our CBRM course, which is a large case study built into the lessons and exercises, and real world examples and testimonials from CBRMs in the industry. It tests you on your ability to apply the skills and knowledge learned at foundation level and focus on you developing the practical skills to perform a strategic BRM role. In contrast, our foundation courses like cloud computing provide you with more of a fundamental understanding of cloud concepts from a business and technical perspective. Our foundation courses use tools and links to nudge you towards self-directed learning in a supportive way. Also, storytelling techniques and personalization help to engage and motivate. Storytelling is a great way to bring content to life and get buy-in. We develop storytelling by weaving a case study into our lessons and building the story around the content, also using video to bring it to life. One of our case studies, Toddler Tracker, is a really good example of this, and this is used on our Agile courses. Components of the Toddler Tracker device, which is used to track toddlers, is used for an activity to apply Moscow prioritization. So, and in another example, you're a project manager working on how to communicate effectively with your team. All of this is reinforced with feedback and quizzes to check learning and really, again, bring it to life. Personalized learning is another key learning technique that makes content relevant and keeps learners motivated, as they can learn in a way and pace that works for them. Personalization could be used to match material to a career pathway based on your current skills and interests or future needs. And it can be as simple as asking you to reflect on a key point and apply it to yourself, or develop exercises that draw on your own experiences. So all of these methods and best practice in e-learning work for us by meeting the needs of professionals and organisations, and we continue to develop and respond to developments in the industry this way.
Thank you so much, Kat. And finally, I'm going to hand over to Dave Agata, who is our CTO. And Dave's going to talk a little bit about some of the developments in e-learning software.
Yeah, hi there. My name's Dave, and I've got over a quarter of a century of IT experience, from hardware engineering through to third line support and service delivery manager. So with ITSM Zone, we have constantly changed, and it's constantly iterative of how we produce e-learning. And the days of what a lot of people are worried about is the death by PowerPoint, which we've all been sat in the classroom where you have the instruction in front of you and is literally reading the same PowerPoint that you're looking at. There's nothing worse than that. The only thing worse than that is doing it on e-learning, where you've got you're watching a video of the man or woman reading the PowerPoint to you. Those days for ITSM Zone are long gone, and they should be gone, as far as I'm concerned. What we have now is the ability to stop and start training. It's interactive, and that's the most important thing in order to keep the learner engaged throughout their trip. Having that ability to stop and start, to move from between platforms, from whether it's the PC or mobile, or you've got some time on an evening and you're looking through the iPad, what we're able to do is pick up exactly where you left off. And that's all done from the server side, from our side. So when, as a learner, you come in, it's very, very easy to do, very, very easy to pick up exactly where you finish from. The interactions that we have, again, extremely important for how people learn. Everyone learns differently. Some people learn by seeing, by watching. Some people learn by the actual doing. Some people learn by listening. So we try and bring in all those aspects into our training. Whether it's a physical drag and drop of stuff across the screens to show that you can, you've understood what's gone on, being able to interact like that shows, has been proven to show that information sticks in exactly where it's needed. Quizzes, again, very important, and it's also very important as well to bring a little bit of it's quite hard to bring fun into that training. But having the quiz, it's not part of the exam that you might do. It is something to keep that information, to keep it into your brain, keep it into your mind of exactly what you've done. We also, throughout the course, throughout each course, as much as possible, we try and bring in cartoons which marry everything else up. So the problem with some accredited courses is that we have a syllabus to follow, and that does mean sometimes it can be quite dry. So the stuff that you need for the exam isn't necessarily what you would need in order to do your job. So having a cartoon and having a narrative that follows its way through the course and through each lesson and through the end of the course, it's almost a journey that hopefully we're able to show with the experience that we've got. We're able to show that how that syllabus and what you're learning might be actually used in the real world, and how it might help you with your job. In with that as well, we've got links, the interactive links that aren't necessarily part of the learning aspect of it, but very much so shows you perhaps how to utilize what you're learning in the real world, or how people have actually done that, which is, for me, that's almost more important. You know, if you're not going to learn anything from this, if you learn to just pass the exam, that's absolutely fine. But what we try and do, certainly ITSM Zone, is help you pass that exam, but equally show how you can use that knowledge you've just gained in order to do your job properly and make you better in the workplace. Which leads me on to the manager side of things. You know, if we can show that the people who work for you are learning as well as able to pass an exam, then that's automatically, it's going to be better for that environment that you work in. The progress reports that we have, the systems that we use, we're able to show, you know, when users are down to the keystrokes they use at a specific second of a specific hour on a specific day, you know, and that helps us enormously. We do have technical issues, and some people have technical issues with, you know, whether it's they're set up at work, whether they're trying to get through a firewall. We're able to help them work out exactly where the problem is, and you know, work together to alleviate that problem. But also for the managers, it's good for to be able to, you know, report on their users and report back to senior management, and actually prove that the money they've spent on this training is actually being used. It's worth doing it for. Also the course pathway that the managers have, it's very important, because they can actually show exactly where the users are at a specific point in their training. And I think it's one of the biggest things that we do here at ITSM Zone is every year we do a study to get feedback on our courses. You know, not everyone's happy with it, because not everyone likes e-learning. But what we do is we try and accommodate every single piece of feedback as much as we possibly can. You know, moving courses a bit to the left is a little bit harder for us, but if we can show that actually we've taken stuff on board, you know, whether it's more cartoons people want, if that's appropriate, as long as we're trying to keep that manageable bite-sized chunks of the information that people will take in, you know, complete opposite of those death by PowerPoints that we are all and have been so used to in the past.
Thank you very much. So just to kind of recap there, based on our experience at ITSM Zone, we've kind of evolved what we do a lot over the years. And what we've tried to do today is just share some of those perspectives with you if you are suddenly making the switch to online training. So general training advice from me, advice for managers and for teams from Kirsty, advice on what good e-learning actually looks like from Kat, and some updates on how the technology's actually changed from Dave as well. So we hope you find that really useful. We hope you find it helpful. If you're starting to learn in a new way, you can contact us as well through social media, through our website, generally learning questions, as well as kind of specifically the things that we offer. if we can provide any advice or kind of share any lessons, then we're more than happy to do so. So really hope you found that that useful. Thank you to everybody on the panel for jumping in at short notice. Our next ITSM Crowd scheduled episode is on the 26th of March, so not long to go for that one now. And we're going to be talking about the scope and application of ITIL 4. So we're joined by Mark Smalley, who's one of the ITIL 4 authors, and Simon Dorst and Lana Yakimov from Kinetic IT in Australia. So Simon, well known on Twitter as the ITIL Zealot, is going to be playing devil's advocate, I think, a little bit for us on that episode. So thank you again to the panel. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next episode of the ITSM Crowd.
Thank you.
Thank you.